गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजना जमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोविंद राधे जय राधा गोविंद राधे जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद नीताय गौर हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की इस कॉन्फाउंडर आचार्य ब्यूटी फाउंडर आचार्य सेवियर ऑफ द होल वर्ल्ड जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, श्री श्री राधा गोविंद देव की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 20, entitled What's it entitled? Mine is not connected to Wi-Fi. So we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 20, entitled Conversation between Maitra and Vidura. Okay. And text number 2. क्षत्ता महाभागवतः कृष्णस्यैकान्तिकः सुहृत् यस्तत्याजाग्रजं कृष्णे सापत्यम् अघवान् इति. क्षत्ता महाभागवतः कृष्णस्यैकान्तिकः सुहृत् यस्तत्याजाग्रजं कृष्णे सापत्यम् अघवान् इति. क्षत्ता महाभागवतः कृष्णस्यैकान्तिकः सुहृत् यस्तत्याजाग्रजं कृष्णे सापत्यम् अघवान् इति. क्षत्ता महाभागवतः कृष्णस्यैकान्तिकः सुहृत् यस्तत्याजाग्रजं कृष्णे सापत्यम् अघवान् इति. क्षत्ता महाभागवतः कृष्णस्यैकान्तिकः सुहृत् सापत्यम् अघवान् इति. Shata Mahabhagavataha Ekantikas Suhrit Vaishnavis Shata Mahabhagavataha Krishna Ekantika Suhrit Yajagrajam Krishne Zapatyan Agavan iti. What word? Kshatta Vidura Mahabhagavataha, a great devotee of the Lord. Krishnasya, of Lord Krishna. Ekantikaha, unalloyed devotee. Suhrit, intimate friend. Yaha, he who. Tatyaja, abandoned. Agrajam, his elder brother, King Dhritarashtra. Krishne, toward Krishna. Sa apatyam, along with his 100 sons. Agavan, offender. Iti, thus. Translation and purport by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada ki. Shaunaka Rishi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna, and who gave up the company of his elder brother because the latter, along with his sons, played tricks against the desires of the Lord. Purport. The incident referred to here is that Vidura left the protection of his elder brother Dhritarashtra, went travelling everywhere to sacred places and met Maitreya at Haridwar. Shaunaka Rishi here inquires about the topics of the conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura. Vidura's qualification was that he was not only a friend of the Lord, but also a great devotee. When Krishna tried to stop the war and mitigate the misunderstanding between the cousin brothers, they refused to accept his counsel. Therefore, Kshatta or Vidura was unsatisfied with them, and he left the palace. As a devotee, Vidura showed by example that anywhere that Krishna is not honored is a place unfit for human habitation. A devotee may be tolerant regarding his own interests, but he should not be tolerant when there is misbehavior towards the Lord or the Lord's devotee. Here is the word Agavan. Here the word Agavan is very significant, for it indicates that Kauravas, Dhritarashtra's sons, lost the war because of being sinful in disobeying the instructions of Krishna. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namne Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhishchakpa Sindhubhyev Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. So Shaunaka Rishi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna, and who gave up the company of his elder brother because the latter, along with his sons, play tricks against the desires of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of you to Srimad Bhāgavatam class. And before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees so that something worthwhile can be spoken and we can take home a strong message back which we can put in practice into our lives. Yeah. Actually, before speaking about what Sri Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, it's very important to understand. Of course, here Sri Prabhupada is mentioning how Vidura left the palace because he was surrounded by non-devotees who are not willing to follow the instructions of Krishna, of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he left the place. It's not easy, but he did it. Because for a devotee, what's most important is to be surrounded by other devotees, the association of devotees. Why? Because association has an impact. Even modern research says your personality is an average of the personalities of the 5 people whom you closely associate with. So no one can say, actually I am a very pious soul, I don't drink, I don't smoke, but all my friends are drunkards and smokers. Then it's just a matter of time, one also becomes a drunkard and a smoker. That's the power of association. So therefore, association has been given a lot of importance. And before I go into that, I was just thinking, in the Srimad Bhāgavatam, it is mentioned about the glory of the path of bhakti. And the glory of path of bhakti in one of the verses, I think either it comes ahead or it is covered in the 3rd canto. It says, Aho batoshva pachoto gariyan yajjivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnurarya brahmanachurnama grinanti ete. It is said, even a person who is a dog coming from a family of dog eaters, supposed to be very lowly according to the scriptural understanding. Even such a person, if he chants the name of Krishna, we should understand that he has bathed in all the sacred rivers of the world in the previous lifetimes. He has done all the austerities the Jnanis and the Yogis are trying to do today. He's already covered all of this. And he has studied all the scriptures. And basically he has done all the pious activities and austerities. If he has come to the point of chanting Hare Krishna. Even though it may seem that in this life he's coming from a family of dog eaters. So that goes to show the glory of the path of bhakti. So, not just one verse after verse, the scriptures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhāgavatam, what talk about later, like Chaitanya Charitamrita and others, they glorify the path of bhakti. Even it is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakale Ashant, Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Atayeva Shant. Those people who are trying to become jnanis by deep study into the Vedic scriptures, especially like the Upanishads and the Vedas, trying to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, what is matter, what is spirit. So they spend literally lifetimes understanding that this is not spirit. At the end of their study, they understand that this is not spirit. Then they take another object and try to analyze. Then they understand, this is not Brahman. So like this neti process, the Jnanis and the Yogis, they get into this. And in this way, they spend lifetime after lifetime simply wandering in different forms of life also sometimes. So they get stuck in the cycle of birth and death. Similarly, we also see that the bhakti process is very simple to practice or to execute. It's very easy. Sri Prabhupada goes on to say even animals like monkey, like Hanuman, he could practice. Of course, Hanuman is not just a monkey, he's a Vanara. But still, the point holds. Like you see in Chaitanya Charitamrita when Shivananda Sen, he was going on a yatra to Jagannath Puri. So that time he came across a dog. And of course, Shivananda Sen was such a nice king that he felt that anyone who is coming with me on the yatra, I should facilitate for all of them. So in my lecture, my spiritual master was saying, in this yatra, because the dog is in a dog's body, so it doesn't eat what humans eat. So Shivananda Sen even made separate arrangement for the dog, separate prasadam for the dog, separate accommodation facility for the dog. Just like you have separate accommodation facilities for old people, you have separate accommodation facilities for women, you have separate accommodation facilities for brahmacharis, you have separate accommodation facilities for grihasthas, and he also made separate accommodation facilities for this dog, and it's just one in number. But he took out energy to make that facility, which goes to show that he actually very much cared for the dog. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that Shivananda Sen has a lot of love and care for this dog. So later on, of course, the dog went missing or something. But later on, he heard how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the dog. You will find it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in this way, you understand bhakti is such a simple process, even animals can do it, Prabhupada says. And not just animals, even old people. There is actually a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Stri vriddha bal, like that it says. That means women can practice it. Like shapacho, people of low caste, outcast, anyone beyond, without, irrespective of any caste, they can practice it. The old people can practice it. Small children can practice it. Isn't it? So therefore, bhakti process is made so accessible. And therefore, when you study the Bhagavad Gita, you will find one thing. When Krishna is speaking to Arjuna about different yoga systems, what is he telling, hinting Arjuna towards the end of everything, at the end of every chapter? Arjuna, don't worry. I'm explaining all this. Just surrender to me and you will be protected. This is the ultimate religion, he says. You will find that. Now, like in 6th chapter, he spoke something which actually bewildered Arjuna's mind. He talked about mind control. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, you tell me to control wind, I can control. But don't ask me to control the mind. That's very difficult for me. So he talked about, all this talks about the Jnani processes and the Ashtanga Yoga process. But Arjuna said, this is not for me. Then Krishna wanted to reassure Arjuna, Arjuna, you are already on the right path. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't worry, you're practicing Bhakti Yoga. That means, what is Bhakti Yoga? It's a topmost yoga system. Why? Because Krishna is telling Arjuna, you're the topmost yogi. Why? Because the definition of a topmost yogi is one who has complete faith in me, and with that faith they worship me. He is the topmost of all the yogis. So therefore, one on the path of bhakti, not just get peace and happiness, that ateva shant. They are the most peaceful actually. But they also have all sorts of protection from Krishna. Wherever a person goes, Krishna is also with him as Paramatma. And the process of Jnanis and the yogis, you find, they have to put a lot of effort from their side. Whereas Bhakti, Krishna does the 50%. It's very easy. It is said, no, you take one step, Krishna takes his one step. 1,000 steps, but his one step is big. Vamana covered how many in one step? He covered the upper planetary systems in one step. So half the universe. So therefore, our endeavor is very little in bhakti. And therefore, Krishna again encourages Arjuna, Neha Bhikramanashvasti Pratyavayana Vidyate Swalpam Apyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. Just do a little in bhakti and you will be protected. Not that we have to do little. We have to do a lot, as much as possible. But the inspiration is, even if he is not able to do much, even if he does little, Krishna gives him protection. So I'm just speaking all of this just to explain how bhakti is very easy to execute. And Prabhupada said it is simple for the simple, complicated for the complicated. See, once we start chanting Hare Krishna, chanting, dancing and feasting, this is the process. But if someone has doubts about it, okay, then take a look at the scriptures. Then if you are feeling, okay, why only Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita? Okay, take a look at the Upanishads. So more the complicated our mind is, more access is given. The access is allowed. You can go and study. But at the same time, chanting, dancing, feasting is the process. So it's simple for the simple, complicated for the complicated. Therefore, we don't have to plug our nose, go to the Himalayas, dip ourselves neck deep in the ice waters. Nor do we have to go and sit in the summer season surrounded by 5 fires, 4 in 4 directions and the scorching sun on the top. This is all the process done by the yogis, and you will find, and if you watch this documentary on Kumbh Mela, All these different sorts of types of yogis come. Different kinds of Mayavadis, all there. They have not come to the conclusion of what the scriptures are trying to say. Yet, they do not know. And they are doing so many difficult austerities, isn't it? And we are here, and we are just, some of us have joined less than 1 year ago. And Krishna says, you are the topmost yogi. And these fellows are plugging their nose and they have wasted so many years, probably lifetimes, isn't it? So this is the glory of bhakti, that it is made so accessible and made very easy. Therefore, Krishna is called two names. He is called as Sudurlabham, that means very difficult to attain, or very rare that he is attained. But at the same time, his other name is Sulabham. He can very easily be attained. So contradictions only solved with only Krishna can solve contradiction. He is very easily attainable, but at the same time, he is very rarely attained. Why? Till the time we want anything less than Krishna consciousness, than pure love of God, then we get stuck in many other things. So this actually shows the glory of bhakti. And in one lecture, His Grace Gaurang Prabhu was saying, who is most unfortunate? He said, one who never gets Krishna consciousness, he is unfortunate. But those people who get Krishna consciousness and give up Krishna consciousness, they are most unfortunate, he said. It was very striking to me. Why? Because when you get a diamond and you lose it, then we repent a lot. Then we never got a diamond. Then, okay, it's not, maybe we may get in the future, no problem. So therefore, when we get when we have got this Krishna conscious process, which is compared to a diamond, but this diamond, you give it to a big diamond, you give it to a dhobi wala. Dhobi wala means a washerman. He uses it to weigh the clothes or keep the clothes down or beat the clothes, to wash the clothes. You give the diamond to a washerman, he'll wash the clothes with it. You give the diamond, this big jewel, to a man, a printing press owner, he'll use it as a paperweight. Okay, he'll keep some paper and put it on top because he doesn't know better value of this diamond. So similarly, you give the diamond to, of course, if you give it to some people, they will wear it. They'll use the diamond to look beautiful. But you give it to the person who sells diamonds. He'll use an instrument to understand the purity of the diamond, and then he can give you equivalent amount of cash. Why? Because he knows the real value of the diamond, isn't it? So therefore, the people who can understand the real value of bhakti process, they can really encash on it. That means they take advantage. Those people who do not understand, they don't take advantage. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying in his song, I forget the song, but he says, Bhakti Janani. He says, Ekadashi is coming. Some disappearance and appearance days of the Acharyas are coming. Let me take benefit because these are the days or occasions which actually produce bhakti in the heart. So therefore, people who have understood the process of bhakti, they don't hesitate to take advantage. Because it's all there. Krishna has done his part, he has given it to you. So we have understood the process of bhakti, then we take as much as possible. So that being said, also one more aspect of bhakti is, jnana, yoga and other processes for spiritual attainment is always one-sided endeavor, mostly. They don't depend on Krishna. When I mean one-sided endeavor, I mean that they don't much depend on Krishna. So they have to put in a lot of effort, whereas bhakti is awarded by Krishna. That's another. Therefore, it's Sudurlabham. It's very rarely attained because it's always awarded by Krishna. When we please Krishna, Krishna actually manifests his internal potency in the hearts of the devotees as bhakti, love or devotion for him. So why am I talking about all this when Prabhupada is talking about Jana Sangha, about Asat Sangha? Why? Because now how many of you present here, when you are, say you have chosen a path to attain a particular goal and you are moving ahead, how many of you willingly will put obstacles on your path? Anyone here? Yeah? Some are confused. You willingly put obstacles in your path? So of course, yeah, that means you want to attain the goal. Yeah. Unconsciously, yeah. So none of us therefore use the word willfully, because no one would like to willfully put obstacles on the path. So therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami, when he wrote Nectar of Instruction, he has mentioned the 6 obstacles. What are they? Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasanghascha laulyamcha shadbir bhakti vinashyati. So that means the 6 obstacles, sometimes a neophyte devotee may willfully put those in his path. What is that? First one is atyahara. Atyahara means over collection or overeating. And second one is prayas. That means over endeavor for some material achievement. That means you're working too hard to get something material. Material means something small. So too much endeavor is not required. So that's prayas. And then comes prajalpa, gossip, or of course in the purport if you read, Sri Prabhupada mentions anything disconnected from Krishna. Newspapers, novels, movies, and of course talking. All this comes under prajalpa. Can you give the mic? Yeah. You can ask anyway.
So people are connected with kind of pop culture. And to connect with them, like as a bridge to connect with something as pop culture, it technically doesn't count as prajalpa, right? Because it's related to like, the main idea is to preach, not just as like, oh, I'm just shooting the dice with this person or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's fine. But of course, sometimes in the name of bridge preaching.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Like one student, in India we have this, when we do youth preaching, we have youth centers where the students stay, and we go to hostels and give out books or collect contacts. So one student went into the hostel. He was a new devotee, just maybe 6 months old. So he was asked to go and collect some contacts. He went to one of the rooms in the hostel, and he saw that this particular student inside the hostel, he was watching a movie which he used to watch before. This was like a sequel. So he got very interested. He sat next to the boy and he also started watching. Then the senior mentor came to find out where this boy went, and he found that both of them were watching movies inside. You see? So therefore it's a little risky. So therefore one has to be very careful. So therefore prajalpa is an obstacle, and prajalpo niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means 2 things. Either it can mean fanatically following some ritualistic rules. That means the essence is lost. You are just following for the sake of it. Or you dilute it so much that you say, Prabhu, ultimately everything is essence. The essence is what counts. And you don't follow it at all. If someone wakes you up in Mangalarti, you say, Prabhu, yesterday night till 2 a.m. I was studying Krishna book. So why? Because ultimately we have to be Krishna conscious, no Prabhu. So now if you say and skip Mangalarti, so that's not allowed. At the same time, you cannot say, you cannot keep following so strictly that you're not Krishna conscious also. So that's what is niyamagraha. And then come jana sanghascha. And laulyam is greed for material gain. But jana sangha is what we are going to discuss, because that's what Prabhupada mentioned about Vidura. Vidura saw that in the palace of Dhritarashtra, he was surrounded by people who were when Krishna was present in person, they were ready to go against Krishna. Just imagine yourself to be now present in the midpoint of Times Square. You're completely surrounded by billboards simply flashing their sense gratificatory advertisements. People are all talking about sense gratification, about sex life. And also whomever you come across, they are only discussing about sense gratification. Everything is just sense gratification. You feel so drained out, isn't it? You feel so pathetic. You just want to run back to temple. And when you come back to temple, it's like oasis in the desert. You feel relieved when you drink those waters. So similarly, Vidura was feeling like this. Actually, can you give me the connection? Let me see if I have internet. Okay, yeah. Can you give me the cable? I'll connect it. It's easier. Just to give a glimpse of what was happening. I think so. I hope they didn't change it. Oh, that laptop is connected to internet? Okay, just connected. And give me that laptop. Because I wanted to show something from Bhaktivinoda Thakur also. Okay. Yeah, so you will find in third canto, second chapter or first chapter. In first or second chapter, you will find how Vidura actually was instructing our Dhritarashtra to tell his son Duryodhan to follow what Krishna says. Krishna wanted a peace treaty. He didn't want the war. But Duryodhan was full of himself. So therefore, he could not understand what Krishna wanted. He wanted the war at any cost. And when our Vidura, he started chastising Dhritarashtra for supporting Duryodhan. What did Duryodhan say? Because what was problem with Dhritarashtra? He was blinded by attachment to his son. So he couldn't take any action towards his son. But Duryodhana saw that Vidura is actually becoming, he's like becoming a pinprick. You know what's pinprick? It's like a thorn. He's becoming a problem in the entire Kauravas. So he understood this fellow, if we support him now, in the future he will be the cause of our trouble. So therefore he wanted to remove Vidura, and Duryodhana chastises him. I just wanted to show that. Yeah. Here you will see. You're able to see? Yeah. It's chapter 1. Yeah. See, Saint Vidura was a great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his questions to his grace Rishi Maitreya. Okay, they're purposeful, that's fine. Yeah. So King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. Thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews. So like this, Dhritarashtra supported all the abominable activities of his son. And Vidura knew of each and every one of them, but he was not supportive. So finally, you'll find here. Yeah. So when Krishna himself came finally to the Sabha of the Kauravas and tried to speak and convince that we don't want this war, still Dhritarashtra did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. So this was too much for Vidura. And then now he finally he starts chastising Dhritarashtra. Now Vidura said, you have the mic? Someone can read. You must now return.
You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthir, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He's waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their lord. You are maintaining a fence personified Duryodhan as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. Because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhan, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhan was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle.
So just as FYI, Duryodhan, when he was born, his name was Suyodhan. You know this? Suyodhan. So why? Because they thought he'll do something good. But later, because of his activities, he was named Duryodhan. And his activities became such because of the company of all these great souls like Shakuni and others.
Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He's so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme.
Yeah. So here we saw how, this is why Vidura left. Because he tried his best, but they were simply against the will of the Lord. So therefore, such a place where the desires of the Supreme Lord are not being fulfilled is not a place for the devotee. It's a hell for the devotee. Why? Because for the devotees, to see Krishna in the center is their satisfaction. So similarly, you will find in fifth canto, the denizens of the heavenly planets, they are actually praying to the Supreme Lord that please, we don't want that, even that kingdom. It can even be Indra's kingdom, the most opulent kingdom. But if there is no sadhus who are speaking Krishna Katha, if there is no Harinam Sankirtan going on, if there is no, so all these things they mention, if these aspects are not present, then I do not want to go into such a place. Na yatra vaikunta katha sudapaga, na sadhavo bhagavatāstadāśraya, na yatra yajñesha makha mahotsava, suresha lokopi navaisa sevyatam. That is the verse. So they say we don't want to go to such a place where there is no Krishna Katha, there is no Krishna Kirtan, and there is no honoring of Krishna Prasad, there is no Krishna in the center basically. Sense gratification has taken Krishna's place. So what does Sadhu do? Like Vidura did. With great respect, when Duryodhana chastised Vidura, he took his bow, he took all the weapons, kept it at the door and left. He understood this place has been affected by the external energy of the Lord. And what did Vidura do? He went to different holy places. And then that's the time when he met Maitreya Rishi at Haridwar. So similarly, let me just show you. Now it's working. I'll show you what Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions. Yeah. And also one more thing about Janasangha. In Janasangha is also called as Asat Sangha, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you will find Sri Prabhupada quotes it very often. Asat Sangha Tyag e Vaishnavachar. Vaishnava means he lets go of Asat Sangha. Asat means that which is false, which is not true. Sangha is of course association. Why? Because he says, what is this Asat Sangha also? This Asat Sangha is, he says, Stri Sangi Eka Krishna Abhakta. So two main categorization Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does of Asat Sangha is, one is those people who are attached to opposite sex, and second is non-devotee of Krishna. And of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives 7 categorizations of this Asat Sangha, which I want to show. Okay. Just have to find out. Yeah, you can see this is too small. Alright, I cannot go bigger than this. Okay. So this is from Bhakti-aloka. I think Bhakti-aloka is the commentary, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary to Nectar of Instruction. In that he mentions. Okay, let me quickly cover the points. Yeah, we'll just go through highlighted points because it will save our time. Yeah. See, Bhakti Devi does not manifest in one's heart. When we don't. Actually, see, many people, we all have done some progress in past life. But that progress is covered up when we take birth in this life. It's only reawakened in association of devotees. It is not reawakened till the time you don't meet the devotees. It's not possible. So only when one comes in touch with the devotee, the past progress also comes up. Yeah. So without association of devotees, there is no Bhakti Devi does not manifest in one's heart. And it is most necessary for sadhakas to associate with devotees. Therefore, in this context, the word Janasangha is understood to mean persons who are devoid of devotion. That is understanding of what is Asat Sangha or Janasangha. They are worldly minded people. They don't care for Krishna. Yeah. So one who desires to attain devotion to Krishna should carefully give up the association of worldly people. Yeah. So this is the categorization given. Worldly people are of 7 types, 7 kinds. First one is Mayavadis and atheists. Second one are sense enjoyers. See, why sense enjoyers? Because sense enjoying, see what actually made Ajamil fall down? He already was married, so he knows about sex life. So it's not about sex life. But seeing man and woman enjoy material pleasure, that is very dangerous for a sadhaka. That means if you see some, say, a devotee takes ice cream and he is relishing like anything, then you also get a desire, maybe I also need little ice cream, Why? Because when people relish material pleasure, enjoy material pleasure, it plants a seed of desire in the heart. Therefore, we should never observe materialists enjoying sense pleasure. Very dangerous. Otherwise, we all know what is, sense gratification. We all have given it up and come here. Not that we don't know. But when we go and see that people enjoying, that can actually bewilder the intelligence. Actually, one of the other verses, prayers of demigods, they say, Smriti pramushta atishaya indriya utsavat. They say because of the festival of senses in the heavenly planets. And because of too much overindulgence, our remembrance of the Supreme Lord has become, pramushta means spoilt. It has become destroyed. So therefore, sense enjoyers. And those who are fond of sense enjoyers, not just sense enjoyers, but even people who are fond of sense enjoyers, one has to give them up. Why? Because it's like, it's like associating with the devotee of sense enjoyer. What does devotee do? He preaches. So the devotee of sense enjoyer, what does he do? He preaches sense enjoyment. He goes and tells everyone about importance of sense enjoyment. He tells you about the glory of sense enjoyment. So then he convinces you about sense enjoyment. So therefore one has to even give up those people who are fond of sense enjoyers. And of course here women means we can put it opposite sex. Like that. Prabhupada says in one lecture that for woman is man, and for man, woman is woman. So it's basically opposite sex, And womanizers means are those people who are attached to opposite sex. Again, because they preach the glory of it. And those who are hypocritically devout. That means externally, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, externally Vaishnava, internally sense gratifier. His heart is for sense gratification. But externally he puts tilak and shaven head, all that. And he'll behave foolish outcasts. That means people who are completely breaking the four regular principles. Left, right, center, they don't care for it. Yeah, so why Mayavadis come under Janasangha? This is about Mayavadis. It'll be very helpful to some of you. Yeah, can you read the mic?
The Mayavadis do not accept the eternal name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. They consider the living entity as a product of Maya. Therefore, their opinion of the living entity has no eternal existence. They do not consider devotional service eternal. Rather, they consider it a temporary method to cultivate knowledge.
Yeah. So, why? Because Mayavadis use bhakti to get what they want. But we know, for us, bhakti is supreme. That means we are practicing bhakti, like we are chanting. Someone asked Prabhupada, why are we chanting? Or why do you chant? He said to chant more. The goal of chanting is to chant more. So bhakti is full in itself. It's complete, love for Krishna. So they do not consider devotional service eternal. Rather, they take it to be a temporary method to cultivate knowledge. So therefore, associating with Mayavadis, one's devotion gradually disappears. They become hard-hearted. Let me highlight this also, very important. Yeah, so therefore, there's instruction of Swarup Damodar. He spoke to Bhagavan Acharya, who was an associate of Lord Chaitanya, and he was said to be a coward boy in the spiritual world. But Bhagavan Acharya's brother is Gopal Bhattacharya, who was a Mayavadi. He had studied in Banaras under some Mayavadi teacher. So he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come and meet my brother. Said, who? Bhagavan Acharya, a devotee. But his brother is a Mayavadi. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that he's a Mayavadi, he was not too happy about it. And Bhagavan Acharya saw it. And then Swarup Damodar tells Bhagavan Acharya, Buddhi brashta hoile tomar gopalera sange mayavada suni bare upajila range. That means actually, what did Bhagavan Acharya do? He said, he told Swarup Damodar and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please, he has just studied Vedas and everything and come from Banaras. Please let us hear him speak about the Vedanta Sutra. So now Swarup Damodar is actually chastising him. Are you gone crazy that you want to hear Sarika Bhashya? Vaishnava hoya ye ba sariraka bhashya sune sevya sevak bhava chari apanera ishwaramane. See, can you read this translation quickly, Mike?
You have lost your intelligence in the association of Gopala, and therefore you are eager to hear the Mayavada philosophy. When a Vaishnava listens to the Sankira Bhasya, the Mayavada commentary upon the Vedanta Sutras, he gives up the Krishna-conscious attitude that the Lord is the master and the living entity is his servant. Instead, he considers himself the Supreme Lord. Yeah.
So therefore, the Mayavadis, of course, to the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's categorization, we can also add modern scientists. I don't think he had the problem of modern scientists, which Prabhupada had faced. So, yeah, therefore Mayavadis count under Janasangha, Asatsangha. And of course, sense enjoyers we already gave some time. And with respect to that, this is being quoted. Vishai Ranna Khaile Mailin Hoiraman. That means if a sense gratifier offers you food, tell them thank you, but you can keep it to yourself. And of course, the other example is of Chota Haridas. He was not a sense enjoyer, but he had cast a lustful glance at a lady who gave him or something while receiving rice. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tasted it, he said, never invite him to our association again. He said, because fine intelligence can detect impurity. Yeah, okay. Okay, I mean, there are many things about opposite sex and everything. I have wanted to go through this, but there's no time. We'll just go to highlight it. Externally exhibiting the symptoms of Vaishnava while internally remaining a Mayavadi. This is a hypocrite. It's actually a pseudo Vaishnavism or hypocrisy. And the section is of Ramdas Vishwas. So when he actually accompanied, I think, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, if I'm right. So he accompanied Gopal Bhatta Goswami from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri to meet Lord Chaitanya. And he told Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and he said that, please give me all your luggage and I'll carry them for you. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was very much touched, and he observed that this Ramdas Vishwas had so much faith in names of Lord Ram that constantly he would be chanting the name of Lord Ram. Therefore it said, Ashta Prahara Rama Nama Japena Ratri Dine Sarva Tyaji Chalila Jagannatha Darashane. Ashta Prahara means the 8 Praharas. 1 Prahara is 3 hours. Ram Nam Japena Ratri Dina. Day and night he is chanting Ram Nam. Ramdas Yadi Prathama Prabhu Rami Lila Mahaprabhu Adhikattare Kripana Karila. But when he came to Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya embraced Gopal Bhatta Goswami but neglected Ramdas Vishwas completely. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami got bewildered. Why is Lord Chaitanya not showing him mercy? Such a nice devotee of Lord Ram. And this is given here. Why? Antare mumukshu teho vidya garvavan sarva chitta gyata prabhu sarvagya bhagavan. Why? Because inside he is a mumukshu. He is looking for liberation. Actually, he is a Mayavadi. He is not a devotee inside. But he is using the process of bhakti to come to that platform. So it's like stepping on bhakti and going somewhere else. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually rejected him. Yeah. So therefore, until one gets the opportunity to associate with pure devotee, he should pass his life engaged in devotional service in solitary place. So whenever scriptures talk about solitary, we have to practice yogic process in solitary place. That's for people where there's too much of janasangha, worldly minded people. Stay away from them. But when you have association of devotees, like Krishna tells in Gita, Kurmonga Naiva, like a tortoise, in times of danger, withdraw senses. And amongst devotees, you extend your senses and completely dance, engage in chanting and dancing. Like that. Yeah. Can you read this? This is just from Katyayana Samhita. In Bhakti Samrit Sindhu it is mentioned, it seems. Varam huta bhajvala panjarantar vyavastitihi na shauri chinta vimukha janas samvasa vaisisam. This is a very nice translation. Can you read?
It is better to accept the miseries of being encaged within the bars and surrounded by burning flames than to associate with those bereft of Krishna consciousness. Such association is a great hardship.
Yeah. Similarly, there is also that ha hanta hanta bhakshanatopya sadhu. That verse comes. Nishkinchanasya bhagavan bhajanon mukasya. I think Sarvam Bhattacharya says. So why? Over there also it is said. Why? Because if you associate with non-devotee, you will die multiple times. Rather, if you're just surrounded by flames, you may die once, but you will go back to Godhead. Otherwise, you'll spend your lifetime after lifetime in this material world. So you're dying multiple times. So it's worse. Like that it is said. So I just wanted to, of course, I have many more things to say, but maybe we'll just stop here in the interest of time. Maybe if someone has anything quick to say or question, then we can take. This is only for the Jana Sangha. No, I just got it from somewhere. I'll tell you the secrets later. Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you for class. Yeah, you had a lot of really nice points. And you were talking a lot about karmis and gyanis, or yogis and gyanis. So the question is, we know that, devotees can be doing the same actions as someone else, but the difference is the consciousness behind it. So gyanis and yogis can be devotees and they just understand, I'm asking, so can they be devotees and just understand that maybe their position as a yogi is to bring people to the platform, the mode of goodness, to then be able to hear, like implant those seeds and just be content with this is, like Radhe Shyam was saying that like people like Sadhguru, they bring people to the mode of goodness and then able to hear a message from there. But maybe this person internally is saying something, but they're just at that point and they're just accepting this is where I'm at to bring people to this mode, and then someone else can take it from there. Is that okay? Would they still be considered a yogi or a jnani, or would they, like, what's that?
I mean, of course, anyone can become a devotee. Like we have example of Sarvam Bhattacharya. He was the head of all the Mayavadis in Odisha. So when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became a devotee. And we have example of so many such people. They were from impersonalist background. They were jnanis or yogis. But when they met Sri Prabhupada, they became devotees. So anyone can become devotees. But of course, we would always encourage people to directly take up the bhakti process. Why? Because bhakti process is all inclusive. There is bhakti jnana also. We study the bhakti literatures. We don't have to do the sandhi vichhed and all those things what the jnanis do. We don't have to break our head on Upanishads. Now the purports are there. Sri Prabhupada's purports. So we also have access to analyze the Shastras. We also have access to analyze different philosophies. Actually, Sri Prabhupada writes in purport of 1.1. I forget. In that, actually, it's mentioned. Prabhupada mentions the 6 systems of philosophy, and he says one has to understand all the 6 systems of philosophy to understand why Vedanta is topmost. Like that. So the room for discussion, room for research is always there in the bhakti process. But we would always encourage the people to first come to bhakti and then do the research from that point. It's called safe. You are putting your position is very safe, secure, isn't it? But you don't take up bhakti and you say, I'll take up bhakti only once I'm convinced it is the topmost process. That's very dangerous. What if you die tomorrow? Like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I also wanted to add a little something to that question. Like Radheshyam Prabhu was also coming from a standpoint of like encouragement and like respect for everyone. So of course we can respect like everyone's position, like as you said, like Sadhguru, like bringing people to understanding that they're not their body. But when it comes to philosophy, like internally, if they're actually a devotee, then they wouldn't be doing that. They'd be giving them bhakti. So yeah, we can appreciate what they're doing, but to assume that they might have a different internal position is, there's scenarios like that in the Bhāgavatam, but it's highly unlikely. So just things to consider, because the mind can start to like wonder, like, oh, well, why don't I just listen to this guru because it's fit for my position? But as Arjunānanda said, it's good to just start with bhakti. And I also had a question, just quickly. You mentioned how bhakti is simple but also easy. And I wanted to question that, because Srila Prabhupada always says it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. So I was wondering what you meant by that. Maybe I can better understand it. You said it's simple for the simple, which makes sense. But in terms of it being easy, how, like...
And then you have to give me one aspect of bhakti which is not easy.
I guess the nature of purifying our anarthas, or the nature of like dealing with different psychophysical natures of different devotees, like things like that. Like even if someone's simple-minded, it might not always be like an easy thing to deal with. So I was wondering, like, is that a proper way to understand that, or?
Of course. So when I was saying, I was talking about the limbs of bhakti, say like hearing process. It's very easy. And I was talking more in terms of chanting, dancing and feasting. Even if one is simply ready to do these things, then it's very easy for them. to progress ahead. Of course, when you talk about anartha nivritti, our mind starts becoming dizzy, isn't it? But actually, if someone is ready for it, it's not difficult. Yeah. So mostly I wanted to emphasize the point that it's simple for the simple. Yeah.
Thank
in
you.
those terms, it's easy.
Maybe this is a comment on what Narada Muni Prabhu just spoke, but perhaps it's easy, but we're not willing to do it because we are still not desiring it. Like, we're actually still desiring material enjoyment to some degree. That's what anartha is, maybe. Is this a correct understanding?
Yeah.
Like, we actually still want the material enjoyment. That's why we're here in the first place, in the material world. But if we actually wanted Krishna consciousness, then we would have it as soon as we wanted it, because that's the nature of Krishna. If he gives it to you.
Very true. So, okay. The last one,
It's pretty much the same thing, except I was kind of curious. Well, first I wrote it wrong. I had heard hearing, chanting, and dancing, but you actually said chanting, dancing, and feasting, yeah? Yeah. So what, if you have full faith, how much of the philosophy do you need? Because if hearing is not in there, then there's no philosophy for you to ingest. If all you're doing is chanting, dancing, and feasting, you're not actually learning the philosophy. But if you have full faith in the process, will you still reach the goal? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the most important is faith in the process. And yes, hearing, when we hear, the chanting, dancing, and feasting is a very popular statement made by many of the senior devotees, including Srila Prabhupada. He said, our movement is just chanting, dancing, and feasting. Anyone can participate. So, and that is the perfection, that is the goal. And who cannot chant, who cannot dance, who cannot feast? Everyone can do it from that perspective. But when they come in the process of bhakti, to come to that platform of just chanting and dancing and feasting, that's not that easy. Our mind goes crazy if we want to do something for ourselves. Chanting, dancing, feasting is good, but for example, there are different people with different needs. Like people who are like workaholics, they need to do something else. Just you make them sit and chant, or just do kirtan, they cannot sit. Like how many can come to Harinam and just sit for 4 hours chanting? No, mind goes crazy. You want to do some action because the passion is there. Yeah, so of course then you need philosophy and many other things. But philosophy is, the topmost is chanting, dancing and feasting. Like that. What is the purpose of philosophy? To help you do chanting, dancing and feasting in a better way, in the right attitude. Like that. So similarly, and when we talk about philosophy, that is one thing. Another thing is also when we do hearing is not just philosophy of, we are not this body, we are spirit souls. But hearing also means hearing direct Krishna Katha. That is also part of hearing. So that is, I think that we can put it under feasting for the ears.
That raises some interesting points. Like you just said, Gorakishore Babaji, who I don't think he studied anything, he was illiterate, but he could comment on the Bhāgavatam if it was spoken. But then I also think about it, if the goal isn't necessarily to learn the philosophy, you're just using philosophy as a stepping stone, then how do we preach? Like, if it almost seems like you can shortcut. If you just surrender completely, then you can just go straight to the goal. But then how do you actually expand the movement? Because what do you know? You don't even know what you know. You just know God. Where does preaching come in? Where does expansion? Where does any of the things that take passion come in to your ability to actually expand it? And are those things holding you back? Like putting in action to intentionally learn things so you can preach versus learning things expressly to forget them and just remember God constantly?
Good question. Such a long question. I think if I got you right, you're asking basically if we don't give importance to philosophy, where does preaching come into place? That's the essence of the question? Okay. So of course, I'm not saying no philosophy. Actually, I like the philosophy. So you can never consider me to be a anti-preacher of philosophy. As I would say, everyone should study philosophy. But I'm saying that the goal, even if why I made the statement of chanting, dancing and feasting, not everyone is philosophically minded. So is bhakti not meant for them? That is the point. Bhakti is meant for everyone. Why? Because the bhakti process is just Krishna Katha, Krishna Kirtan, Krishna Prasad. This is the bhakti process. So that was the point. Not to say philosophy is not important. Philosophy is very much important. Haribo. We will end here. Okay, last comment, we'll end.
really quickly, because the main goal of bhakti is just to attain pure love of God. And sometimes, like, at least for me, like going out and preaching, sometimes when we are preaching to someone, we can get too caught up in like the philosophy with them. And then, but the main point is to actually get them to chant and dance and feel that love of God through the chanting. And so sometimes we can get caught up in the philosophy, but it's good, especially when like our minds need to be satisfied with something, like when people are asking really amazing questions, and to be able to give them answers from the philosophy, it helps people settle the mind and then come to a place where they can accept something. But essentially the main goal, the end goal, is essentially love of God, if I'm not like misunderstood. And so to get people to chant and dance on Harinam is like the best kind of preaching.
Thank you. And just the last point to end with, actually we can only overcome Jana Sangha when we have Satsanga. Asatsanga can be overcome by Satsanga. So if we create an atmosphere of relishable association, then it's very easy to give up Jana Sangha, because there's nothing there. If you're holding on to that, means you're not finding relish in Satsanga. Grantha Srimad Bhāgavatam ki, Shri Prabhupada ki.